Okay, so today I'm going to be working on the shorts for this pattern 118. You can find the top from this pattern on my channel. And I'm going to go through this very thoroughly because it's really a lot of pieces for one little pair of shorts. So, and the instructions will just drive you nuts. I can understand why Dawn was wanting me to do the pattern as a tutorial because it's really kind of confusing if you're new to this stuff. So, okay, so the pattern pieces that you're going to need are pieces, and I'm probably not going to say this in order. 11. I'm trying to call them in order. 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 for this shorts pattern. So that's the pattern pieces from Simplicity 1118 for piece, let's find it, piece 11. The casing for the waist, you'll need to cut 2 pieces of that. Piece 13, I'm just going in the numerical order so that it's less confusing. Piece 13 is the shorts front. You need to cut 2 pieces of that. Piece 14, the pocket, and you will need to cut 2 of that. Piece 15 is the back of the shorts, and you will need to cut 2 pieces of that. Piece 16 is the leg band, which it will go around the bottom of the leg. But you'll cut 2 pieces of the fabric and 2 pieces of fusible interfacing. I'm using Pelon number 809 Decor Bond. It's a heavy duty. That's just what I have on hand. So if you want to go lightweight or sew in or however you want to do it, go for it. Okay, and then we have piece 17, which is the bow, and you will cut 2 pieces of that. Now, my suggestion to you is if you are following along this video, it's a good idea to go ahead and just get your pattern instructions out anyway to help you as you go along get an understanding of how this comes together. I may change up a few things with this pattern, with putting it together, but I just have to see first. I really haven't looked at the instructions. So our very first step in constructing these little shorts is we're going to need to attach the pocket pieces. And it's kind of tricky with the directions, so I went ahead and did the first one and made sure I had it right, and I really didn't want to screw up this because I don't want to have to cut any more of my fabric. I don't have any use for this. I'm just doing it for the video. But so I looked at the instructions. I was like, my God, how could a newbie even know what this is talking about? It's so confusing. And you guys will see, you know I'm a rebel like that. I don't mark the little dots and stuff, and sometimes I really should. I didn't do that in this case. If you are new to this, absolutely mark your dots and things from your pattern and line those up when you're doing this. But the first thing you want to do, and these are the front pieces of the shorts with the pocket piece, and you're going to line up that little curve right there with right sides facing together. And I'm going to sew this little curve. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip along this curve. I'm not clipping through my seam that I just made. I'm just clipping right to it. Just making a few clipped edges. And then what I'm going to do is turn this and be very sure that you are not tucking what doesn't need to be tucked here, if you get what I'm saying. That curve needs to show up once you have this turned. We've got our curve, and mine looks a little wonky, but it's okay. I'm going to make it work. So now what we need to do is we're going to fold this little pocket. Y'all can tell I live in the hood. We're going to fold this little pocket over, and what's going to happen is that curved edge is going to be folded over on itself. That's going to be the inside bottom part of the pocket. Now the pattern instructions don't call for pressing, but it just helped me to keep everything in place. And if you're more comfortable with pinning, you can pin this. But what I'm going to do is just sew right along the edge of this bottom of the pocket, and I'm going to sew it twice because I want it to be a nice, well put together pocket, no seams busting. Okay, so here you see I have the two front pieces for the shorts, and I've got the pocket sewn on, and that contrast makes a nice contrast. So my suggestion is, if you're going to make these, do different colors, because that's kind of neat how it'll have that little contrast with the pocket there. But you can see this is what it looks like on the back side. Okay. For this step, I am not doing it the way the pattern calls for, because I've told you guys before, the reason I like to do any pants or shorts or anything I make for anybody, not just a toddler, but the reason I like to do it this way is because the inseam or the crotch seam is going to hold together much better. I can't explain to you what the difference is, but trust me, sew them like the pattern calls for, and then sew a different pair the way I'm telling you to do it, and tell me which ones last the longest. Instead of sewing the two pieces together that are alike, like the two front pieces and the two back pieces, I'm going to sew a front piece to a back piece, lining up the side seams here. So basically what I'm going to do is just, see, I'll put these two right sides facing together on the side seams. This is going to be the crotch seam, and then basically when you open it up, you'd have one big piece. Okay, so before I sew the crotch seam, I wanted to show you guys. This is what you'll have. It looks like one big piece for the shorts. That's a back piece and a front piece connected together. So now I'm going to fold it back over with right sides facing together, and just make sure you line these guys up, because the back seam is going to be longer, of course, than the front seam. And I'm going to line these two little pieces up, and I'm just going to stitch right along there as well. So here we have the two pieces for the fronts and the backs of the shorts. And what you need to do now is go ahead and press down these seams, just because it's going to fit better. It's going to be a more comfortable fit. So now that we have that done, we want to turn one of the pieces right side out. And just whenever you're constructing this, however you do it, just always be careful and mindful of that kind of fold over that's in that pocket. You don't want to mess it up. Okay, so the piece that is wrong side out, I'm gonna lay it out like that so that you can see that's kind of the front and the back of the shorts. So what I want to do with the right side piece, is the piece that's right side out, is I'm going to fit it in here, and line up these crotch seams. And it is an excellent idea to pin just a little bit. Don't go pin crazy. Okay, so basically you just pin that one place right there. And what you're going to do is you want to line all of this up neat. And again, I'm going to say it 20 times because 20 people are going to ask me. Right sides facing together, but you basically want to line this up and start at the top. And just sew all the way around that crotch seam. Okay, so I've sewn all the way around this. Now I just want to clip just a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of clipping on this. And if I were doing this for anything more than just this tutorial, I would do a tight zigzag all the way around this and then clip a little bit around the curved edges. But since I'm just doing this for the video, I'm skipping some steps. But now what you see is you will turn this, and you actually have a little pair of really short shorts. But there's going to be a band on the bottom, and they're for toddlers, so they're not really going to be that short. So, now, okay, so the next step is the casing for the elastic, or basically the waistband. And what we want to do first is lay them right sides facing together and stitch both ends. Okay, so you can see I've stitched both ends of this together, and I've gone ahead and pressed my seams down. Now the next thing I want to do, I hate waistbands like this, I'm going to be honest with y'all. The next thing the pattern calls for is to fold it over, basically making it like this. I just don't deal with stuff like this very well, so there may be some swearing involved. So this is laying down nice and neat. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and press it. Okay. There's our waistband. Let's top stitch it first. Just take your loosest stitch, your longest stitch length, which on my machine is a 4. Just make sure you leave an opening because you still have to feed elastic through there. So okay, so now with the waistband upside down and the pants right side, you know, facing that way, we're going to line this up, and you're going to line up the side seam of the waistband doohickey with the side seam of the shorts, which is right on the other side of that little pocket there. Okay, so I just pinned the side seams, and then I pinned where the pockets are kind of folded over in there because I want to make sure that doesn't go anywhere. You need to remember where you need to stop so that you can finish off your, you're going to have an opening for your elastic. So I'm going to start at one point here where I marked my chalk, and I'm going to stop at the other, and make sure you back stitch on both beginning and ending so that it doesn't pull open when you're feeding the elastic through. Now it says to trim it, but I'm a little weary of doing that at this point, to trim that selvage off of there. But I don't want to do that yet. So then the next step would be to top stitch this once you've got this folded out. You can press it and top stitch it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And just remember, again, you still have to skip that space where you're going to feed the elastic through. Okay, so basically with top stitching, what I've done with these shorts is right along the edge here, I've just sewn, and it on the bottom, because what you're doing is making sure that this selvage is laying down flat. I've done that all the way around the shorts, with the exception of skipping the part where I'm going to feed the elastic through. So now I'm just going to get my elastic out, and you will do your waist measurements for the child you're making it for. So okay, so I'm finished with the waistband for the shorts. Now I want to do the bottom bands of the for the legs. Okay, so the shorts, the bottom of the shorts, the legs, the whatever, need to be gathered slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my stitch length to a loose stitch length and turn it to the longest length that I have. I'm going to pull out some extra on the thread, and I just loaded my bobbin, so I don't know how well that's going to work. but the pattern instructions say to do a double line, and you can stretch it like that. I mean, you can gather it like that. So I'm going to give this a try, and I'm just going to do a speed up of it. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done one of the legs on these shorts just to make sure I could do it. And this is the trickiest, probably for me, the trickiest part of the pattern. I'm just going to do these leg bands, and then I am calling it a day with this pattern, y'all. So what I'm going to do is fold over about 1/3 of an inch and press. You don't need to stitch it. I thought it had said to stitch, but you really don't need to. Okay, once you've got that pressed over, you want to sew the end, stitch the end of this right here, and then press that seam open. Then you can set this aside and get ready to gather the shorts legs. Okay, so now we've got our bottom band for the leg, or the leg band, whatever you want to call it. This is where it gets just a tiny bit tricky, and I know I got a whole mess of strings here. The good thing about this is if you have some like I do here that's sticking out of your final product, you can pull it out pretty easy. So, okay, so we're going to take our bobbin threads, which would be on the back if you sewed the top. We're just going to slowly and easily start gathering this around. Just get it gathered a little bit, and then you can start the next step. Always make sure too, after you do this, that you go ahead and turn your stitch length back to a normal stitch length, and that you put your tension back right. So, okay, so I'm going to take the side seam of this leg band, and that's what the pattern says to do, is to put it on the side seam, on the inseam of the shorts. I don't know, I might have done it different, but I guess it just is a good starting point too. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this with the seams open and right sides facing together, and that part that you press down will be facing the top of the shorts. And then what I've got to do is try to make this gather fit in here. And this is kind of tricky, but it's just something you just have to work with. I had to work with the first one, and to be honest, my first one was a little bit sloppy. But once you kind of got it fitting in there, and you know, you use your hands to open it up, and you say, okay, that fits, then you can start sewing. So you want to stitch all the way around, and as this pattern calls for, I'm using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch this, and then I'm going to show you what to do to finish. Okay, so now that we've got that leg sewn on, now what I can do, if you guys did it different, you won't have this mess. But you see this mess of strings I got hanging out everywhere? I'm just going to clip those. Just be careful and don't clip your fabric. Throw them in the trash because I don't want them to get caught up in my wheels of my chair. Okay, so now we want to turn these shorts wrong side out. And this is what I did, and I think it's sort of something that kind of the way the pattern instructions were suggesting to do it. Definitely use a lighter weight interface, and you don't need this mess that I got right here. So then what you want to do is start turning this sleeve band up, leg band up to where it meets itself. So what I did is I'm going to take a needle and thread, a hand sewing needle, right at this center seam here. I'm just going to stitch this to itself to close up that leg cuff, leg band. And that's just kind of to keep it in place so that I can do the top stitch on the outside. I'm going to turn it to the side, the other side, and do the same thing on this. And this is no big deal. You just do a quick stitch to hold this in place. You don't need to do it all the way around. I think the pattern instructions called to do it in about 4 places. But I'm just doing it in a couple of the places on the side seams. So now what I want to do is I'll turn the shorts right side out, and I'm going to take it to the machine, and I'm going to top stitch this band down all the way around, and I'm going around the band, not the shorts. Okay, so that's it. I've got both the leg bands on. You can see I just top stitched. My last stitches just look so messy because I have actually been working on this for a few hours now, and I'm exhausted. It's slow going because I wanted to make sure I got the instructions right and that I was telling you guys right. So I'm not going to do the bow. The bow is pretty cut and dry. You can follow the pattern instructions for the bow. It's a real simple thing to do. So you would make the bows and then you attach them to the sides here, and that'd be really cute. I think all in all, I really hated doing this. Like I said a couple of times, but I don't know, I may end up editing those out. These bands, this interfacing I have was the only interfacing I had, and I feel like it was too thick. It's going to be really uncomfortable. I would use a sew-in, really lightweight type of interfacing, something that's not because once you fold this leg band over, it's so thick, it's going to be uncomfortable. Now after a few washes, it'll probably loosen up and it may get a little more comfortable, but I don't know. I have to be honest, I don't like doing everything I do on YouTube, and I absolutely hated doing this one, so. But it was a challenge, and I did learn some things, and I kind of like the way those pockets were sewn, so if it were for something else, I might try to incorporate that into the one of my own patterns someday. But yeah, as far as this, ugh, yuck. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Peace, y'all. Bye-bye.